Welcome back. Here we are with the home study course for Tax Liens Exposed. This is the second module, and we're going to talk about tax liens, the untapped alternative investment. Why is it an alternative investment? Because most people don't know about it. The banks don't want you to know about it. The insurance companies don't want you to know about it. And that's why we're tearing the face off this, right? And we're exposing this secret investment system to our students. Very, very important. And I really commend all of you for taking that step and moving toward financial independence with tax liens. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk about some of the other alternative investments and what their shortcomings are, right? And we're going to compare some of them to tax liens and why tax liens are so important, right? So, number one, right, is let's get right into this and talk about U.S. Treasury Bills, right? U.S. Treasury Bills are long considered the safest investment available, right? But here's the thing, right? And this is why I love the tax liens, is that they are the safest. They're safe because of this. They're safe because either you're going to get all of your money back with the interest, or you're going to wind up getting the real estate. So, number one, don't lose your money. Number two, put yourself in an investment that you can get a very substantial high return. And number three, put yourself in the way of a windfall. And that's what tax liens do. They're safe, they're secure, they have that high return as a normal investment. When I say normal, it's an abnormally high return, right, with safety involved, because usually it's either or. Either you get safety or you get a high return. And then added to that, you have the windfall piece, and that's the windfall of the spread between the price of the tax lien, right? If you buy a $5,000 tax lien, let's say, and the property that you buy that $5,000 tax lien on is worth $100,000. So that's the windfall there, that $5,000, right, compared to the $100,000. If you get the property for $100,000, that's worth $100,000 for a $5,000 tax lien. That means that's 5 cents on the dollar, right? And that's a non-negotiated sale. So that's the windfall that we're talking about, right? So Treasury bills, people talk about those. I remember, people holding on to T-bills, going to T-bills. But the best thing that you can do, or that you can hope for with a T-bill, is that it keeps pace with inflation. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, hoping that something is going to keep pace with inflation is not a viable investment strategy for me and for my family. I don't like to hope. I like to know. I like to predict what I'm going to get, right? And tax liens are the most predictable investment, right? So this is the kind of thing, and you'll hear this. And the reason why we have this in the course at this juncture is that sometimes you'll have people around you, and they're going to talk about this. Say, well, I don't need to go into tax liens. I don't need that because I've got all these other things that I do. I've got T-bills, I've got CDs, right? I've got certificates of deposit. Well, we know, right? Money market funds. In the module that we did before this, we talked about an example where we were beginning with that $5,000. And if we took $5,000 and put it into a money market fund that paid 6%, that in 30 years, that $5,000 would grow to $29,000. Well, that's not bad, right? That's okay. That's 6%, right? Well, that's certainly predictable, right? 6%. But wait a second. If you took that same, if you remember this from the last module, if you took that same $5,000 and invested that in TaxLien certificates in Arizona, paying 16%, well, at the end of 30 years, you would have over $429,000. So that's $400,000 more than the $29,000 you would have in a 6% money market fund. That's huge. That's a windfall, right? And we're not even talking about getting a property. This is just from the interest that it pays. Well, now, okay, it even gets better if you take that same $5,000 and you put it into tax liens or redeemable deeds, as they're called in Texas, right, what you wind up getting, right, is that you wind up getting over $4 million. It's $4,029,000. So either way, okay, we're talking about tremendous windfalls without even ever getting a property. So this is the thing, right? Either you can do the certificate of deposit and go for safety, right? You can do the money markets, but understand there's nothing safer than the tax liens. So you've got the safety piece, and you have this huge interest rate. Absolutely fantastic, right? So then you've got other alternative investments as well, right? Stocks, mutual funds, all of these things have various strengths, but they all have the same weakness. And what that weakness is that there's no guaranteed against the loss of your principal. You know that people in the stock market have lost all of their money, right, in a stock market crash. I mean, they've got margin calls, they have all that kind of stuff. You don't have any of that when you're buying tax liens. And what I love is that the tax liens are predictable. You know, September 11th, 2001, I was in my office. My office is across the street from the Empire State Building. I remember when those planes hit the towers. I was there. I met my family up in Central Park. We stayed there so that no planes would bomb any buildings and that we would be safe. But here's what it taught me. I watched, okay, amongst other things, I worked the bucket brigade down at Ground Zero. I lost a lot of friends that day. It was a very sad day for me personally, very sad day for family and friends, a very sad day for the country, very sad day for the world. But my tax lien investments didn't suffer. My tax lien investments didn't go down in value. I didn't get wiped out. All my tax liens stayed the same. Whatever was paying me 16% paid me 16% all the way through the disaster of 9/11. Anything paying me 25% paid me 25% all the way through the disaster of 9/11. That taught me an invaluable lesson. There's no emotional loss. There's no disaster loss. It stayed the same, steady, and guaranteed, right? So that's what I love about it. I love the predictability. You know, we talk about that $5,000 that if we bought tax liens in Arizona in 30 years, it would turn into $400,000 and change. And if we bought them in Texas in 30 years, it would turn into $4 million and change. Well, that, you know, that $5,000, just understand that the first go around on that, if you took $5,000 and that first year at 25%, you would get, in any tax lien, you would get all of that back. You'd get your $5,000 back plus 25% interest, and that 25% is $1,250. So you would wind up getting $6,250 back, and that's, you know, that's tremendous, right? That's the interest income. That's absolutely fantastic, and that's without even getting a property. So, I mean, this is the thing. It's safe. It's predictable. It has all this stuff. And that predictability and safety, the reason why people are buying gold bullion, they're doing that because they want that safety. The problem with gold bullion is that it's a security issue. I mean, you've got to hold on to it someplace. It's a physical metal. It's good as a hedge against inflation, but it really doesn't deserve the shine that it has in terms of an investment. And let me explain again: is that I don't care, you know, how good gold has been doing in the marketplace. There's no way that you can beat plunking your money down, you know, $5,000 down, and then going after a tax lien profit, meaning either you're going to get all of your money back plus interest, or you're going to get the property. So let's say we plunked that $5,000 down, and we were buying a tax lien on a property that was worth $100,000. Well, I mean, take a look at that spread. Can you imagine? It's a $5,000 property and a $5,000 tax lien, and the property is worth $100. That means that there's $95,000 worth of equity that you're going to get. No hunk of gold is going to give you that, right? right? And understand that and I know what some people are saying. They go, well, the gold may not give you that kind of return, but it's safe. Well, here's nothing safer than the tax lien, because you're going to get all of your money back plus interest, right? That's your guaranteed position. So that's what I love about it. I love that safety. Absolutely fantastic, right? So let's talk about tax lien certificates and have a review of what it is, right? And each module, we build on what we did before, right? It's a lien. That tax lien certificate is a lien that's imposed on property by law to secure the payment of taxes. So what's happening is that you as the investor, what we're doing is we are lending that municipality or that county the money to pay the taxes. They can't get the tax dollars from that particular taxpayer, so they're going to sell a tax lien certificate or a redeemable deed to us, the investor, and we buy that, and that money that we are putting out, that money that we are paying for that tax lien certificate, the county or municipality is using that to pay the taxes. It's actually a loan, I should say, to the taxpayer. It lets the taxpayer breathe a little easily, because they have that redemption period now of whether it's 6 months or 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. They've got that redemption period to figure out how they're going to pay the taxes, and the house can't be foreclosed on for the taxes until the end of that period, right? So that's what's fantastic for us, is that at the end of the redemption period, either one of two things is going to happen. If it's a 1 year redemption period, at the end of 1 year, either we're going to get all of our money back, right? If it's a $5,000 lien, we'll get that entire $5,000 back. Plus, if it's a 25% interest rate, we'll get that $5,000 back plus our 25% interest. That's number one. That's first position. And the second position, the second thing that can happen, is that we wind up with that particular property that's worth $100,000 for the amount of the $5,000 lien. So it's $5,000 lien, and we get it for we get that property that's worth $100,000 for $5,000. You cannot go wrong with that, right? So that's why I absolutely love it. It's safe, it's sane, secure, and it's predictable, right? So, the states that offer tax lien certificates are these, right? We've got them: Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona. Texas does redeemable deeds. Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Georgia is wonderful. They also do redeemable deeds. That's 24%. Florida, 18%. We've got South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut. You've got all of these things. You got them in D.C. as well. I mean, so these are the states where you can you're going to buy a financial instrument, and that financial instrument in time will either hatch into all of your money back with the interest, that exorbitant interest rate with all that safety, or you're going to get the property, right? As opposed to buying a straight deed someplace. If you buy a straight deed, you're buying the property. When you're investing in tax liens, what you're doing is you're actually getting a financial instrument, and that financial instrument will hatch either into a piece of real estate for you that you're getting for pennies on the dollar, or you'll get all of your money back plus interest, right? That's what I absolutely love about it. I love those two pieces, right? And that's what I love. I love the safety piece about it, and I love the windfall that you get with it as well. Absolutely fantastic. So here are some of the states, and we talk about some of the some pieces on the matrix that we have here, like Alabama. The interest rate is 12%. The redemption period is 3 years. So it's 12%, 3-year redemption. Now, whether something is a 1-year redemption or 2-year redemption or 3-year redemption, that's fine. I mean, you're getting 12% a year, and it's a 3-year redemption period. So Arizona, 16%, a 3-year redemption period. Colorado, 14%, a 3-year redemption period, right? So these are the maximum interest rates, right? So Florida is 18%. It's an 18% state, and it has a 2-year redemption period, right? So that's fine. So nothing wrong with buying a tax lien certificate in Florida and waiting 2 years, getting 18% a year on your money, waiting 2 years to know whether or not you're either going to get all of your money back plus 18% a year, or if you're going to get the property for pennies on the dollar. There's nothing wrong with that. Illinois, 36%. Okay, that's 36% interest, and the redemption period is 2.5 years. 36% a year. Well, that is an incredibly large interest rate. Indiana, 20%. Right, so you hear 20%, you hear 36%, you hear 18%. It makes when you hear some of the other states for 12%, you go, oh boy, that's not a lot. Or 10%, you say that's not a lot. 12% and 10%, that's still so much better than anything else that is out there. Right, Iowa, 24%. And the redemption period is 1 3/4 year. It's 1.75 years. Louisiana, 18%, and it's a 3-year redemption period. And Maryland is a 24% interest rate, and it has a 6-month redemption period. All right, so Mississippi, 18% with a 2-year redemption period. Missouri, 10% with a 2-year redemption period. Nebraska, 14% with a 3-year redemption period. Right, so you have all of these different numbers. You hear it, you see it. Which one do you pick? Well, you can, some people, what they do is they pick an area that's close to their home. Some people pick an area where they want to do this, where maybe they'll get themselves a vacation home, right? Because here's the thing: if you're going after property, it's okay if you wind up not getting the property. If the taxpayer pays, remember, you're getting all of your money back plus that exorbitant rate of interest. So if you don't get the property for pennies on the dollar, you're not losing any money. You're getting all of your money back plus that big interest. So that's the other piece that's fantastic about this. It's really great for retirement plans, and it's really great to get properties this way, because you're not having this this negotiated sale kind of thing. Because there's no way that you can go in, that I know of, and negotiate to buy somebody's property for 5 cents on the dollar. Meaning, I don't know any negotiation technique that's going to allow me to go and see a seller and negotiate with them that they give me their $100,000 property for $5,000. I don't think there is a negotiation method that can allow that. Anyway, so New Jersey, 18% with a 2% redemption period. South Carolina, 12% with a 1-year redemption. West Virginia, 12% with a 1-year redemption. So when you look at these things, you see that the interest rates are very high right across the board, all over the country, and you see that the redemption periods, go from 6 months to 3 years. You see what they are, right? It's a question of choosing, where you want to do this. What do you have in mind? This will help you start to figure, do you want to work a redemption strategy, which means that you want all your money back plus interest, primarily, or do you want to work a non-redemption strategy, which means you want the properties? Do you want to do both? Right? I do both, because there's nothing like chasing properties and not losing any money, right? I mean, so none of your time is wasted in this as long as you're buying the tax lien certificates. So that's why I love it. So that's an overview of the states. Now understand this. When you're looking at the states, and some people, they have a very difficult time choosing. If you're having a difficult time choosing, close your eyes and just point to it. And that's okay, because any one of them, whether you're choosing Missouri at 10%, or Illinois at 36%, or Florida at 18%, it's okay. I mean, these interest rates are all fantastically healthy, right? And just understand that either you're going to get all of your money back plus interest, or you're going to get the property. So I mean, it's not something that you have to drive yourself crazy over, right? So it's one or the other. Now, There's plenty of growth in tax lien certificates, right? This growth is financial growth, right? Because you have the interest growth. That's the interest income that you'll get from it. You also have the safety piece. See, inside of this growth is income, is safety, is convenience, because you can be doing this from anywhere in the country, right? Anywhere in the world. You have an internet connection, and you can be doing work on the telephone and on the fax. Liquidity, because here's the thing: when you get one of these properties, right, and you've gotten the property for 5 or 10 cents on the dollar, you've got liquidity. See, real estate itself is not a liquid item. I mean, it's difficult to sell, especially if you have a large mortgage. But understand that you're going to be getting properties for 5 and 10 cents on the dollar. You're not going to have mortgages on them. This allows you to sell properties for 50% of market value, 40% of market value, meaning that if the property is worth $100,000 or $100,000, you can sell these things for $40,000 and make a ton of money. So the prize, and just understand this, in a down market, in any market, the prize goes to the person that can sell the property cheapest and still make a huge profit. If you can do that consistently, then you'll not only survive, but you'll thrive in the real estate marketplace, and you'll do wonderful things for your own retirement, your own pocket, and you'll take care of your family forever with this. And wonderful tax shelters as well, especially if you use your self-directed retirement account to invest in this. But that's why I love it. You've got this income, the safety, the convenience, the liquidity, the tax shelter. And now nothing cash flows like a property. When you say cash flow, that's the amount of money that's left over at the end of the month on something that you rent out, right? After all expenses. Well, if you've got no mortgage, right? I've got some properties in Illinois, and I don't have any mortgages on them. And people say, George, you're in New York City. What the heck are you doing with these properties in Illinois? I said, well, when you're buying them for pennies on the dollar, right? You can afford to hold on to those properties someplace. And you know what? When I sell my properties, I sell them cheap. I sell them for half price. I practice what I preach. That's what I do, right? And you guys will do the same thing. You'll get those properties. You'll get them cheap. Sell them half price if you like, or hold on to them and cash flow them because you don't have any mortgage. You don't have any mortgages on them, right? So the tax lien certificates are considered short-term, low-risk, moderate to high yield, okay, and they're also known as well-collateralized debt receivables. Now, the thing is that I consider them short to medium term, very, very, very low risk, and high yield. I don't consider a 10% yield low. I consider that high. And of course, when you're talking 24 and 25 and 36% interest, just interest as yield on the face value of a tax lien certificate, that's huge. And then having the possibility of getting that windfall, which is getting that property for the 5, 10, or 15 cents on the dollar, it's fantastic. The thing that allows all this safety is that the tax lien is in a superior lien position. Okay, it takes priority over the other liens, including the first mortgages. That means that even if that taxpayer has a mortgage with a bank or a funding company, if the taxes aren't paid, that mortgage can be wiped out. So this is totally safe. Now, there's no question, right, that sometimes in scenarios that the banks are escrowing the taxes. They do that to protect themselves. But very often the banks are not escrowing the taxes, and the banks, quite frankly, at this point, in terms of what's been going on with the mortgage meltdown, the banks haven't been paying as much attention as they could to this, and there are students that we have, and myself, I can tell you that there's more opportunity now to get properties for the pennies on the dollar than ever before. So, I mean, this is just a wonderful window of opportunity to be not only getting the guaranteed returns of the 16, 18, 24, 25%, but also to put yourself in the way of these tremendous windfalls, right? There's nothing like getting a piece of property for the amount of taxes and knowing that the bank's mortgage gets wiped out bank has a $75,000 mortgage on a $100,000 house, that gets wiped out, and you get that piece of property for $5,000. Can you imagine? That's what you can do with this, right? And the tax certificates are a negotiable interest. You can the instrument, excuse me. You can sell those, right? So you can sell those to somebody, and that's what I like about it. Okay, and typically, okay, you're going to be getting the properties well below 10% of the market value. So just like we said, if you're going to get a property that is, it's worth $100,000, you get it for $5,000. That means you're paying 5% of what the property is worth. If you pay $10,000 for that, a $10,000 lien, so you're talking about 10% of what that property is worth. This is huge. It's unheard of. This is called a non-negotiated way of getting properties, right? So again, this is why I love tax liens. I love tax lien certificates because of the advantages. I love that you don't need a broker or an agent in order to purchase a tax lien. You can do it yourself. As long as you know what to do, you can do it yourself. You don't need an agent to do it for you, right? So the tax lien certificates aren't subject to, or I should say, they're inoculated from the fluctuations in the financial markets, right? Things happen. Wars come and go. There's acts of terrorism. There's all these, terrible things that happen in the world, in the United States and in the world. Tax liens have been tried and true for all of that, paying those high interest rates guaranteed, or you wind up getting the property for the pennies on the dollar. Right, and that's what I love about it. I love that possibility. I love that safety with that guaranteed safety, the guarantee that you're going to get your money back, with that large interest rate, or the possibility of getting that property for pennies on the dollar. And the interest rates, and conservatively speaking, people would say that often outperform certificates of deposits and stocks. I would say they pretty much outperform them hands down every time, right? And understand the non-exclusivity of this, and that's what this Tax Liens Exposed course is all about. Is to take this to the people so that that the average person can go out and do this. You don't need to have millions of dollars in order to be a tax lien investor. I mean, there are tax liens out there that cost $50. You can buy a $50 tax lien against something, right? The same rules apply. It's a $50 tax lien if the property is worth $1,000 or $2,000. Let's say it's a hunk of raw land. You get that piece of property for $50 or $100. Well, that's a good day. So what? So you sell that piece of property quick for half price, which is then $500, right? And nothing wrong with putting up $50 and getting back $500. There's nothing wrong with that. So again, it democratizes the whole investing process. That's why I love it. And the other thing that you can do is to work on quick redemptions. When you're going through your workbook, you'll go through and you can talk to some of the clerks. The contact names are there. The office numbers are there in your workbooks. I think it's just about 800 pages. The workbook is huge. Okay, we have the state-by-state information. We've got it all there. You call the county, you call the person at the county, and you can ask, is there anything, do you have anything in the over-the-counter list where the redemption period or the bulk of the redemption period has been satisfied already? So this way, instead of waiting the entire redemption period out, you just wait a fraction of that redemption period out, right? You can also ask them about internet sales. If they have any of the sales on the internet, right? So this is great because typically people haven't been able to do this because it's been out of reach. But we've taken all the information, we've put it all together in one place so that you can do that, and then understand that you can do the public record searches. You can call the county. You can get all this stuff done so that you're doing your due diligence, and you're putting yourself in the way of those huge returns. Right, so that's what I love about it. So, why are tax liens so great? Well, they're great because of the return. They're great because of the safety. And right now, right, is a tremendous time because there have been increases in the amounts of tax liens that are available to the public. Here are some Florida counties, right, and you see Pinellas County, and it shows you this illustration: 23,000, and then up to 28,000. That's an increase of 23%. Hillsborough, 33,000, up to over 42,000. That's an increase of 30%. Pasco. I mean, so you're talking about these are just a few counties, right? This is 4 counties, and you see increase of 23%, increase of 30%, increase of 33%, increase of 27%. Now, when you add all these numbers up, you say that's a lot of tax liens. So we're talking about a lot of liens out there. So even with the institutional buyers, who are the banks and the insurance companies, and there are very big players in this as well, that are not banks and insurance companies, large investment firms that do this. There are plenty of liens for us to get. So you shouldn't think that there's going to be nothing out there, or you're going to be shut out of the marketplace. But the thing is that you have to do is you got to get out there and you got to start buying these things. But this just shows you what's going on. So this is what's happening at the same time that there are more of these tax liens that are available to investors. Also, at the same time, this is that the banks aren't paying the attention that they have in the past, and there are many loans out there where the banks are not escrowing the taxes, and that the taxpayers are paying the taxes directly to the county, and the taxpayers aren't paying the taxes. So the bank may be looking at something, right? Meaning the person may be paying the mortgage and not paying the taxes. I mean, that happens, and so the bank still. If that takes place, and a due process takes place, a foreclosure process takes place, and the bank doesn't step up to the plate, guess what? The bank loses, and that mortgage becomes extinguished, and then you get that property for pennies on the dollar. That's with a bank involved. So when we talked about doing due diligence, when you see the term struck off, and there's plenty of good struck off properties, and remember we talked about, that's also a way that properties is cheat to the state, right? If a taxpayer is actually a decedent. But the question is, do you buy them? Do you not buy them? Sometimes the struck off properties can be phenomenal. They really can. But the thing is, you have to do your due diligence, because sometimes struck off property can have an environmental hazard, that kind of thing. Very often there are industrial properties that are struck off properties. And so you want to make sure that you've done all of your work. I like to, for my purposes, I like commercial properties, because here's the thing. I don't really have a use for industrial properties when I buy around the country. I like to have freestanding, standalone with parking spaces. Something that I can lease out to a 7-Eleven, or something that I can lease out to a Dunkin' Donuts. That's the kind of commercial properties that I like, as opposed to an old factory, an old wire and cable factory or something like that. I don't have a use for that. I'm not a developer, right? I like that, and I like regular single-family homes. I like 1 and 2 family homes. Just all that plain vanilla stuff. Added to something interesting, like say single tenant properties that I can triple net lease. Okay, and that's those are the commercial properties, and you will get some of those in the struck off. But what you have to do is you've got to view the property, you've got to check it, you have to do your due diligence, because you don't want to get stuck with a struck off property, right? So but it doesn't mean that they're all bad, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to ask you on your next session to make sure that you get a clue as to the amount of available tax liens in your area. Have they increased? Right? So you'll use your book. You go to the book, call the county's treasurer office, and find out. Ask them, has it increased? What was it? That kind of thing. And just understand that sometimes the folks at the county don't want to stay on the phone with you all day long, but it's good to get on the phone and just to start familiarizing yourself with some of the stuff. You'll have some of the basic language, and we like to get you right into the push you right into the water right away, even if you only stick your foot in. Right? It's just that you start that dialogue, right? I mean, so you want to be prepared to do this. Think about the return that you're getting on your money right now compared to the returns that you can get doing the tax lien investments. And when you think about that, that'll help push you into action a little bit, because you can say, my goodness, there's nothing that I'm getting that I'm doing now that's paying me 10 and 16 or 25 or 36% on my money. There's nothing that I'm doing like that now. This tax lien investing has a much higher return, even if I don't get the property, than anything else that I'm doing. And if I get the property, my goodness, that's a gigantically huge windfall, right? So be prepared to compare and contrast those things, and it'll help motivate you through that, right? So that's what we want you to do before the next session. Now understand that the next class is going to be the comprehensive guide to all the states that sell the tax liens. We're going to go through that in a more comprehensive fashion. And what we want you to do is to do this homework that we're laying out. Do that. Do the comparison of what you're getting on your investments now. Compare that to what you're going to be able to make in various states on the tax lien certificate investing. And then we're going to, after the next session, we'll start to take a little more action, and it really builds it, right? I want you to go back and review those key words, right? Some of those terms. Remember those 20 terms that we started with in the first module, because we want you to understand the kinds of tax sales that are available, so that if somebody from the county is talking to you, that you're not in the dark. You can ask specific questions. You can ask them, do you have over-the-counter sales? How do you handle your leftovers? Do you do bid in, bid off? What are, how does it work? Do you bid down the premium? Bid down the interest? Do you have premium bidding, right, or overbid? You can start a dialogue like that, okay? And don't be afraid of making a mistake. It's okay, because it's just, at this point, it's a dialogue, and it's part of the education process. So take care of that. Do that. Right, and then we'll come back. We're going to do that third module, and where each step, each module, you're getting closer and closer to getting this done and taking action. Having said that, this is George Fuchs, and stay safe, stay sane, and let's get wealthy together. Talk to you soon.